My girlfriend screamed, "My sister was right, you're pathetic." I replied, "She always gives great advice." I called her sister and said, "Since you know her so well, I figured you should be the one to tell her that I've moved out, and that I sent you the entire folder of proof that she's been cheating on me, with your husband." The worst part of my life was having a built-in critic who never paid rent. That's where the pathetic insult came from. It wasn't my girlfriend, Chloe. It was always her older sister, Sarah. Sarah's opinion, which she delivered constantly, was the background hum of static in my relationship. She was a high-profile real estate broker. I was Adrian, a 34-year-old data analyst at a hedge fund in Atlanta. Sarah saw my salary as proof I was smart, but she saw my caution as proof I was cowardly. She constantly pushed Chloe to upgrade. The tragedy of the situation was that Sarah was married to Robert, a well-respected cardiologist who was successful, stable, and completely oblivious to his wife's chronic unhappiness. Chloe always held Sarah's life up as the standard. Sarah's husband gives her freedom. Sarah's husband isn't pathetic. But here's the kicker. Chloe wasn't cheating with some stranger. She was cheating with Robert, Sarah's husband. I found out 3 months ago. It started with a suspicious hotel charge. It ended with me tracking their texts. The betrayal was surgical. They met secretly, relying entirely on the cloak of family trust and Robert's busy schedule. I didn't confront Chloe immediately. I spent weeks pretending everything was normal, watching their private chaos unfold from the sideline. I realized I couldn't just leave. The insult wasn't just to me, it was to my intelligence. I am a data analyst. My job is to find the point of highest leverage, and the highest leverage wasn't Chloe's bank account. It was the nuclear devastation of Sarah's entire life. If I wanted to end the relationship and ensure they both faced the maximum social and emotional fallout, I had to use the one thing they both took for granted: Sarah's belief in her perfect marriage. The confrontation I'd planned wasn't a fight. It was a perfectly designed information packet that would destroy 2 marriages and 1 sisterly bond in a single phone call. The final blow came when Chloe was frustrated by my silence. I asked her why she was so agitated. She erupted. "You're acting like a ghost, Adrian. You're letting my sister tell everyone you're weak." "Sarah was right," she screamed. "You're pathetic." That was the signal. I knew the moment was perfect. I looked at the woman who had betrayed me with my own brother-in-law, and I reached for the phone. "She always gives great advice," I replied. I was about to make sure Sarah was the first to experience the consequence of her great advice. She always gives great advice. That was the last true thing I ever said to Chloe. After that, the data analyst took over completely. I didn't need to chase them. They were careless. They relied on the cloak of family trust to cover their tracks. My job is finding vulnerabilities, right? Their vulnerability was thinking I was too much of an idiot to check the shared data. The first piece of evidence came from the hotel rewards program. Chloe often booked quick weekend spa trips using my accumulated points, which were tied to my corporate card. I pulled the booking history. The spa trips were consistently booked near a specific, high-end convention center, where Robert, Sarah's husband, the cardiologist, frequently attended mandatory conferences. I cross-referenced the dates. Sure enough, every single spa trip matched Robert's professional travel schedule. The second piece was their digital trail. They were texting. A lot. I couldn't access their private messaging apps, but I could access the shared family cloud album. Chloe was obsessed with taking aesthetic photos of her food and drinks. I found a picture, deleted moments after it was taken, of 2 champagne flutes sitting next to a room service receipt. The receipt header showed the address of a boutique hotel 20 minutes from the convention center. In the background of the photo, reflected dimly in the glass, was a man's watch. A very expensive, limited edition watch that Robert frequently wore. It was subtle, but to an analyst, it was an irrefutable visual signature. The real gold came from Robert himself. The idiot used a shared location app with Sarah, Chloe's sister, for safety. Sarah had access to the app, and since I helped her set up her phone, so did I. I checked the location history for the previous 6 months. Robert would often tell Sarah he was working late at the hospital when his GPS pinged to the same boutique hotel Chloe frequented. They thought they were covered by professional excuses and family silence. They had no idea they were leaving a digital roadmap of their betrayal for the family analyst to trace. I didn't call a lawyer immediately. I called a professional contact at a specialized print shop. I needed the evidence to be undeniable. Clean, glossy printouts of the texts, the GPS coordinates overlaid on the map, and the photo of the watch reflection. I assembled the final product. A heavy black folio containing the complete, documented ruin of 2 marriages. The entire betrayal was contained in a single, perfectly organized folder, ready for delivery to the person who needed to see it most. I didn't want the divorce to be about money. I wanted it to be about moral truth. And I was about to deliver that truth to the person who would be most fundamentally shattered by it. The hardest part of the plan wasn't gathering the evidence. It was the phone call I had to make next. Look, I wasn't going to send the folder through FedEx. That's impersonal. I needed to deliver the bomb myself. I needed to call Sarah, Chloe's sister, and Robert's wife, the first person who would be devastated by this truth. I needed to get her into the same room as the evidence. But here's the thing you need to know. Sarah was the one who often criticized me. She was the one who made those passive-aggressive comments about my apartment being too small, or my hobbies being a bit childish. I hated doing it, but I used her own arrogance against her. I called her work number. She works at a high-end art gallery, and kept my voice measured, almost broken. Sarah, I said, I need your help. I found something devastating about Chloe, and I can't look at it alone. I think she's in serious trouble. Sarah naturally was immediately intrigued and sympathetic, but also full of contempt. Chloe? Trouble? What did she do now? Overspend? It's not money, I admitted. It's far worse. It involves Robert. The mention of her perfect husband snapped her focus. She went silent instantly. She agreed to meet me at a neutral coffee shop outside the city the next morning. I didn't tell Chloe anything. I didn't want her to erase the trail. I needed her to think I was still the predictable guy, busy with my spreadsheets. The evening before the meeting, I drove out to my sister's house, where I was crashing. I spent 3 hours just staring at the black folio, the collateral folder. Inside, I had the full narrative. The photo of the watch reflection in the champagne flute, the GPS data showing Robert's car parked next to Chloe's hotel, and the time-stamped texts about timing being everything. This was the destruction of not 1, but 2 marriages, a complete systemic collapse. I knew the reaction would be violent, but I didn't want Sarah to blame me. I needed her rage to be focused entirely on the betrayal. The next morning I met Sarah. I ordered 2 black coffees, placing the folder between us. Before you say anything, Sarah, I started, I need you to understand that I have the complete, undeniable truth here. This affects your marriage just as much as mine. She was still trying to maintain control. Just tell me what Chloe stole, Adrian. Money? We can fix that. I pushed the folder toward her. She stole something worse than money. She stole trust, and she did it with your husband. I watched her read. The color drained from her face as she saw the text messages, the hotel locations, and finally, the photo of Robert's expensive watch reflecting in the champagne glass. The shock was absolute. She didn't scream yet. She just sat there, reading and rereading the digital evidence of her shattered life. I knew the moment the realization hit her. The life she always held up as the standard was a lie. You're lying, Adrian. You're trying to ruin me because Chloe finally stood up to you. That's what I knew Chloe would say the second she realized the depth of my silence. But the reality was far more immediate. Sarah, sitting across from me, didn't cry or scream. She just looked up from the folio, her face dead white. She didn't need to read the full stack of evidence. The photo of Robert's watch on the champagne flute was enough. "The Houston trip," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "He told me he was covering a double shift for a colleague's surgery." I didn't answer. I just watched her perfect world dissolve into facts. She grabbed her phone, her hands shaking so violently the glass clattered against the table. She called Chloe instantly. I didn't stop her. I tapped the recorder app on my phone and placed it between us. I needed the final, undeniable confession. Chloe answered, her voice cheerful, unaware she was walking into a double execution. "Hey, did you hear from Adrian? Is he over his little tantrum yet?" Sarah didn't engage in small talk. "Where is Robert, Chloe?" Chloe laughed, the sound cold and dismissive. "Why are you asking me?" "He's probably at the hospital. He works. You should know that, Sarah." Sarah's eyes locked onto mine. She was fighting for control, trying to maintain the facade even to her sister. "He's not at the hospital, Chloe. I'm looking at a receipt right now that says he was at the Fairmont Hotel bar with you last Tuesday. The noise level on the other end of the line dropped instantly. That was the moment of truth." "That's a lie, Sarah! Adrian is crazy! He's stalking you! He sent you that to sabotage us!" Chloe shrieked, instantly resorting to the pre-written script. Sarah ignored the denial. She focused on the core issue. "You told me I was pathetic because I didn't hold Robert to the same standards you held Adrian to. You used my husband, Chloe. You ruined my marriage, and you had the audacity to call my husband better than mine." I leaned in, speaking clearly into the phone's microphone. "Hello, Chloe. You called me pathetic. I'm here with Sarah. And she knows everything now. I figured you should have a witness when your life collapses." The scream that followed wasn't just rage. It was the sound of a woman realizing her entire support system, her sister, her best friend, her safety net, had been vaporized by a single phone call. "You bastard! You sick calculating analyst! I hate you!" I hung up. I looked at Sarah, who was leaning back in her chair, shaking. Her rage wasn't aimed at me. "I need to call Robert," she whispered, her voice dead. "I need to tell him it's over." I shook my head. "No, that's too kind. He needs to hear from me first." The structural collapse was complete. Now, the liquidation began. "He needs to hear from me first." That's what I told Sarah. Robert, her husband, the cheating cardiologist, deserved the same courtesy they gave me. A punch to the gut delivered in the calmest possible tone. I called Robert's private hospital line. He answered, annoyed, probably thinking I was asking for a favor. "Adrian, I'm literally prepping for surgery. Make it fast." "Robert, I'm calling you from a coffee shop with Sarah. She knows about the boutique hotel stays and the texts from the last 6 months." The line went completely dead. Not hung up. Just dead air. I waited 5 seconds. When he finally spoke, his medical professionalism was gone. "You're lying. You're trying to leverage me for money." "I'm not leveraging you, Robert. I'm telling you your wife is sitting here with the full printout, and I'm divorcing Chloe because she was cheating with you." I didn't need to say more. I hung up. The domino was pushed. Sarah was silent, her hands gripping her coffee mug. She hadn't heard the whole conversation, but the terror in Robert's voice confirmed everything. She didn't look at me with resentment. She looked at me with a terrifying clarity. "You are cold, Adrian." "I'm effective, Sarah." "You called me pathetic. I just showed you my method." The consequences hit Chloe and Robert almost simultaneously. Robert, the respected doctor, was completely derailed. His marriage imploded instantly, and the hospital quickly launched an internal ethics review based on the nature of the emotional affair and his professional conduct. Chloe, meanwhile, was experiencing total isolation. She called every single person she knew: friends, mutual acquaintances, her own parents. I had already sent the complete audit file to my lawyer and her parents, providing them with the recorded phone call and the evidence of Chloe's financial fraud, the missing money she used to fund her new lifestyle. Chloe's parents, seeing their daughter not just as a cheater, but as a calculated thief, were horrified. They refused to give her shelter. The moral violation was too great for their family image. She was forced to move into a tiny, overpriced studio, burning through her savings to avoid moving back home. The destruction was complete. Robert lost his wife and faced professional scrutiny. Chloe lost her safety net, her home, and her only stable connection. I didn't care about the collateral damage to Robert's life. He was the final piece of the puzzle I needed to disassemble my own flawed structure. I walked out of the coffee shop with Sarah. She had her folder. I had my freedom. "Thank you," she said, her voice hollow. "Don't thank me, Sarah," I replied. "Thank Chloe. She gave me the perfect reason to save us both." "Thank you," she said, her voice hollow. "Thank Chloe. She gave me the perfect reason to save us both." That was the last real conversation I had with Sarah. We left the coffee shop, both carrying the wreckage of our relationships, but heading in totally different directions. My first act was therapy, not because I was broken, though I was, but because I wanted a clear, professional record that my actions were strategic, not emotional. I knew the blowback was coming. Chloe wouldn't go quietly. She tried to fight the divorce, of course. Her lawyer argued I was a calculated sociopath who had illegally accessed private data and maliciously destroyed her sister's marriage out of jealousy. My attorney simply presented the evidence: the hotel receipts, the bank statements proving the missing $11,000, and the recorded phone call where Chloe confessed to the embezzlement. The judge saw the evidence of the theft and her explicit dishonesty. The divorce was finalized quickly, with Chloe getting minimal assets and zero alimony. But the real, agonizing consequence was public. Chloe had to move out of the shared apartment immediately. She tried staying with friends, but the truth about her affair with Robert and the financial manipulation spread like wildfire within the Atlanta professional scene. She lost her job. Her reputation as a trustworthy professional was scorched because nobody wanted to hire a financial liability who was under investigation for potential fraud. Then came the final, confusing twist: the public scrutiny. Chloe, in a desperate attempt to gain sympathy, went on social media and launched a full victim campaign. She posted about the trauma of dating a narcissistic analyst who tracks every penny. She used the precise evidence I compiled against me, making the timeline seem like I was plotting her downfall while she was innocent. The astonishing thing? It worked on some people. My therapist pointed it out. "Lucas, you gave them too much data. You acted without passion. You appear more efficient than human. Some people will always see the person who acts calm as the villain." The controversy was immediate. Half of our friends supported me, seeing the clear data. The other half supported Chloe, seeing the tears and the argument that only a sociopath would destroy 2 families just to win a point. I had won the legal battle, but I had created a massive question mark around my own moral character. The final irony was Robert. He lost his marriage, but he kept his job. He called me once, his voice heavy with grudging respect. "Adrian, you played the dirtiest game I've ever seen. But you won. You should have been a doctor, not an analyst." I just hung up. I didn't need his respect. I realized my victory wasn't clean. It was effective, it was necessary, but it was profoundly ambiguous. I walked away financially whole, but morally compromised in the eyes of my community, and that was the final bitter price of my freedom. The only price of my freedom was my reputation. That's what my therapist said. And you know what? She was right. The divorce was done, sealed, and finalized quickly, but the judgment continued online. Chloe was officially bankrupt, stripped of the $11,000 she stole and left with only the shame of the audit. She had nowhere to go but back to her mother's house. But the real, constant punishment was the question mark hanging over my head. Half the people who read the story, the ones who value feelings over facts, saw my meticulous case file not as evidence of theft, but as proof that I was, indeed, the calculating narcissist she claimed. I walked away financially whole, but morally ambiguous. I sold the condo shortly after, needing a place where I didn't have to worry about the landlord asking if I was the sociopath who tracks credit cards. I bought a small house in rural upstate New York. The air is clean, the internet is fast, and the neighbors don't care what your wife calls you. I focused on my work. The stability returned. But I couldn't escape the reflection of my own coldness. I realized I didn't love the system. I loved winning against the system's flaws. The most insane update came from a mutual acquaintance, one of the few who stayed neutral. He said that Chloe and Mark, the life coach, tried to reconcile. They tried to reboot their toxic relationship, convinced they were the victims. But it failed almost immediately. Mark realized Chloe was broke, radioactive, and still deeply paranoid about being tracked. He vanished for good, his final assessment confirming my original data. She was too much of a liability. Chloe was left totally isolated, living under her father's roof, where the constant disappointment was its own form of prison. My victory was complete, but it felt hollow. I didn't feel the cathartic relief I thought I would. I had won the war by proving my ex was a liar, but I lost the belief that my own actions were entirely clean. I had been too effective. I had used my specialized skills to create an inescapable trap, and I knew that I would have to live with the knowledge that I was the one who pulled the trigger, not the one who walked away peacefully. I kept the case file, not for court, but as a permanent reminder of the price of fighting fire with ice. The final score: I won the money, I won the argument, and I won my freedom. But I lost the effortless belief in my own goodness. That, I realized, was the final, complicated cost of the audit.